welcome you to this study in the book of Galatians. Today we're in Galatians, the 5th chapter, verse number 1. Verse number 1 of Galatians 5 has got so much good stuff in it. So I want you to go and get your Bibles and read along with me and begin to absorb the truth that we find here in the book of Galatians. You know, the truth is something that sets you free. The truth is also something that keeps you free. And that's our objective. The theme of the book of Galatians is freedom from bondage. And verse number 1 of chapter 5 says this: "It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Therefore stand firm and do not be subject again to a yoke of slavery." Notice that the Apostle Paul, when he writes these words, he comes right out and he says it's for freedom that Jesus has set you free. In other words, the reason why Jesus came and set you free, free from the law and free from sin, is so that you could continue to walk in freedom. The Galatians weren't doing this. The Galatians were actually on two sides of the road, and we talked about this in our earlier teachings. You know, the secret of getting somewhere in life is to stay on the road and not to get caught up in one ditch or another. Well, some of the Galatians were caught up in the ditch of the law, and it was burdening them down, and it was causing them not to be effective in their Christian life. Well, then there were other Galatians who were Gentiles, and they were all still caught up in all the worship of idols and all the lust of the flesh and all of the things that come from being bound to sin. And so the Apostle Paul is attempting to address both people. And he says Jesus has set you free. It was for freedom that Christ set us free. Now, this word freedom actually is in the Greek language, it's a noun. Do you know that actually in the Greek language, the way that we could translate this, it is to be a free person, is why Jesus set you free. Do you know that Jesus wants you free? He wants you to be a person that's free. Free from the bondage of the law, but also free from sin. He wants you to walk in freedom. He wants you to be a free person. It is for freedom that Christ set us free. We are already been set free, but now we as believers, we need to walk in that freedom. Freedom from the law, but also free from sin. Now the Apostle Paul continues on, and he says this: "Therefore, keep standing firm." In other words, the Apostle Paul is saying, you know, because Jesus has set you free, because his purpose is that you be a free person, then now this is your responsibility. Keep standing firm. Keep standing firm. Now, what the Apostle Paul is talking about here is you need to be consistent. You need to be consistent in your walk with the Lord. You need to be consistent in this idea: I am going to stand firm. I am not going to be moved. I'm not going to go from one ditch to the other ditch to the other ditch, back and forth, over and over. Oh, I don't believe in the law. Oh, I'm going to be bound by sin. Oh, you know what? Be consistent. Stay in the middle of the road. That's what Paul is saying. Stay on the road. Stay on the road as a believer. Be consistent in your spiritual life. Be consistent in reading and studying the Word. Be consistent in prayer. Be consistent in worship. Be consistent. Actually, that's what the Greek word here for standing firm really means. It doesn't mean, it's not the Greek word histomai, which means to stand and not be moved. This word actually means to be consistent, doing the same thing over and over again, making sure that you're not being bound by the law, but also making sure that you are living free from sin. Consistency. I think one of the greatest things that we could teach believers is consistency. Be consistent. Stand firm. Keep doing the same thing over and over again. And then the Apostle Paul goes and he says, and do not be subject again to the yoke of slavery, or to a yoke of slavery. You see, we need to realize that on both sides of the road, on the side of the law and on the side of sin, both of those places are places of slavery. Both of those places are places that are meant to keep us bound. Or actually, if you would go into the Greek language here, you could actually say that they are places that control you. That's what slavery is. The yoke of slavery is, it can be slavery to the law, but it can also be slavery to sin. And we as believers, we need to walk consistently, not being bound to either one of those yokes. The yoke of slavery. And here it pictures the yoke that an ox would wear. And that yoke is used to control the power and the movement of that ox. And you know what? That is what the law does, and that is what sin does. And the Apostle Paul says, Jesus has set you free. Therefore, you make a decision. Stay consistent, but you also make a decision to stay free. Stay free from the law and stay free from sin. And you know what? If you'll do that, you will make great progress in your Christian life. And that's what we want. Thank you for watching today. Join us again tomorrow as we continue this study in the book of Galatians.